I told myself it was just another shift, just another Tuesday where the register drawer stuck and the bell over the door rang half a second late. I told myself that because it's what you say when you don't want to notice something already leaning toward you. I tried to act normal. She made that impossible. I work at a used bookstore wedged between a tailor and a cafe that never quite smells like coffee. Mostly dust, old paper, and whatever cologne the last customer tried to hide behind. It's quiet in a way that's supposed to be calming, but mostly it just gives your thoughts too much room to pace. I like it. Or I did, before she started coming in. She wasn't new to the shop. I'd seen her before, weeks, maybe months ago, but that morning she felt suddenly present, like the room adjusted around her without asking. Mid-40s, maybe older if she wanted to be. Dark coat, the kind that doesn't wrinkle even when you hang it wrong. Hair pulled back loosely, not trying to impress anyone. She moved like she knew where things were, even when she didn't. She didn't say hello right away, just nodded, eyes scanning the shelves as if she'd already decided not to buy anything. I watched her longer than I meant to. I pretended to straighten a stack of paperbacks I'd already straightened twice. "Do you have anything by Baldwin?" she asked eventually, voice low, steady. Not impatient, not sweet either. Just sure. "Yeah," I said too quickly, then slowed down, like I could rewind myself. Yeah, back wall. Essays are over there." She smiled at that. Not big, just a corner of her mouth lifting, like she appreciated the correction, like she noticed things. I led her back, the narrow aisle forcing us closer than necessary. My shoulder brushed the shelf. Her hand hovered near my arm once, then dropped. I felt it anyway. That hovering. That almost. She picked up a book, flipped through it, then another. Didn't rush. Didn't fill the silence. I did. "They get checked out a lot," I said, gesturing vaguely. People don't usually buy them. But, you know." She glanced at me over the edge of her glasses. "Do I?" I laughed. Because what else do you do when someone calmly dismantles your sentence without raising their voice? My face felt hot. I busied myself pretending to look for a different edition that didn't exist. She paid in cash. Exact change. Her fingers brushed mine when I handed her the receipt. It wasn't dramatic. No spark, no jolt. Just pressure. Warm. Intentional or not, I couldn't tell. That bothered me more than if I could. "Thanks," she said, then paused, like she might say something else. She didn't. Just tucked the book into her bag and turned toward the door. The bell rang late again when she left. I stood there longer than necessary, holding the receipt copy like it might explain something. I told myself she was just a customer. Confident women come into bookstores all the time. I told myself it meant nothing. But later, when I found the spot where she'd been standing, one book slightly out of line, the faintest trace of perfume lingering in the aisle, I couldn't stop thinking about the way she paused. Like she was waiting for me to catch up to something I didn't even know I'd missed. The second time she came in, it was raining hard enough that the windows rattled. The shop felt smaller because of it. Air thick, coats dripping near the door, everything damp and quiet in a way that pressed on your ears. I was relabeling a shelf I'd already messed up once when the bell rang, late as always. She shook the rain from her coat before she looked at me. Same dark coat, different scarf. Her hair was looser this time, strands already escaping like she'd given up on keeping them in place. "Hi," she said, not like last time. Softer, almost careful. "Hey," I said, then immediately wished I'd matched her tone instead of defaulting to casual. Welcome back." She smiled at that, but it didn't linger. She moved deeper into the shop, fingers trailing along spines like she was grounding herself. I followed at a distance, pretending to organize, but really just tracking her. The way her shoulders stayed tense, like she was carrying something invisible and heavy. "I'm looking for a book," she said after a while. "But I can't remember the title, or the author, or why I need it." I waited. She didn't fill the silence. So I did. "What's it about?" I asked. She shrugged, a small motion that didn't quite reach her shoulders. "Regret," she said, then huffed a quiet laugh, like she'd surprised herself. "That narrows it down, doesn't it?" I smiled, but she didn't look at me. Her eyes stayed on the shelf, unfocused. Up close, I noticed the faint shadows under them. The kind that don't come from a bad night, but from too many okay ones in a row. We ended up on a step ladder together, me above her, reaching for a book she pointed at without conviction. My hand brushed the top rung when hers tightened around it. She didn't move away, didn't move closer either, just held on. Sorry, she said, though she hadn't done anything. It's fine, I said automatically. Then quieter, you're fine. That got her. She looked up at me then, really looked, like she was measuring whether I meant more than the words. Her laugh came out unexpectedly, soft, a little worn around the edges. You say that like you believe it, she said. I swallowed. I do. She turned away first. Asked me about store hours, about whether we carried poetry readings anymore. Practical questions. Guarded ones. But her hands trembled slightly when she zipped her bag, and she missed the zipper twice before getting it right. At the register, she paused again. That same almost something from last time. She rested her palm on the counter, close enough that I could see a faint scar near her thumb. Old. Healed. Thanks for helping, she said. I know I wasn't very clear. That's okay, I said. You don't have to be. She nodded once, like that landed somewhere she hadn't expected. Then she left, rain swallowing her whole. I didn't move for a while. Just stood there, listening to the bell fade, replaying the way her hand had tightened on the ladder. Like for half a second, she'd needed something to hold on to, and I'd been close enough to notice. The third time wasn't planned. That's what made it harder to pretend it meant nothing. It was closing time, lights already dimmed to that in-between setting where the shop feels like it's holding its breath. Outside, the street was slick and reflective, the rain downgraded to a steady, patient drizzle. I was counting the drawer when the bell rang, quiet this time, almost apologetic. She stood there like she debated coming in and lost. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I didn't realize how late it was. It's fine, I said. Too fast again. I slid the drawer shut, a little louder than necessary. I was just finishing up. She nodded, eyes flicking to the clock behind me. I won't stay long. She always said things like that, like she was asking permission to exist in the space. She didn't browse this time, just leaned against the counter, coat still on, hands folded like she didn't trust them loose. Up close, I noticed a faint crease between her eyebrows that hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had, and I was only just learning how to see it. I found the book, she said. The one I couldn't remember. Oh, I said. Was it at home? She interrupted, then stopped herself. I mean, I think so. I didn't come for that. Silence stretched. Not awkward exactly. Heavy, like we were both waiting for the other to blink. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen and didn't pick it up right away. The name lit her face in a way I didn't like, tightened her mouth, pulled her shoulders back. You don't have to. I started. It's fine, she said, already answering. Yes. No. I told you I couldn't tonight. A pause. Her jaw clenched. I'm at a bookstore. Yes, still. Because I like it. Another pause, longer. I'll call you tomorrow. She ended the call and stared at the blank screen longer than necessary. When she finally looked up, her expression was carefully neutral. Sorry, she said again. You don't have to apologize, I said. I meant it, but it came out quieter than I expected. She studied me for a second, like she was deciding whether to say something dangerous. Her hand drifted toward the edge of the counter, closer to mine than it needed to be. Close enough that I could feel the warmth without contact. Do you ever, she said slowly, feel like you've already made a choice, and you're just living with the echo of it? My chest tightened. I nodded once. Didn't trust myself to elaborate. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Good. I was worried it was just me. I stepped closer, not intentionally, just enough that if either of us moved, it would be obvious. The space between us felt charged, fragile. Her breath hitched, barely, but I caught it. For a moment, I thought she might lean in. Or I might. I imagined the exact angle. The consequence of it. The way it would change everything and nothing all at once. The lights flicked off automatically behind us, plunging the shop into shadow. She startled, then laughed softly, embarrassed. I should go, she said. I nodded, opened my mouth to say something that might stop her. She hesitated at the door, hand on the handle. then turned back like she might come back into my orbit. Instead, she said, "Good night." I watched her leave, my hand still hovering where hers had almost been, close enough that I could feel the ghost of it, and far enough that it hurt. After that night, she stopped coming in for a while. Not dramatically. No goodbye, no explanation. Just absence. The shop went back to smelling like dust and old paper instead of rain and something faintly floral. I told myself it was normal. Customers come and go. People have lives that don't revolve around bookstores or badly timed conversations. Still, I kept noticing the empty spaces. It was late afternoon when she finally came back. Sunlight slanted through the front windows, catching dust in the air like it wanted to be seen. She stood just inside the door, not moving, like the room might reject her if she did. "Hi," she said. "Hey," I said. Softer this time. She didn't take off her coat, didn't browse, just walked straight to the counter and rested both hands on it, knuckles pale. Up close, she looked tired in a way that felt personal. Not sleep. Choice. "I can't keep doing this," she said. My stomach dropped. I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. Doing what? I asked anyway, because sometimes you need to hear the shape of a thing before you accept it. She exhaled through her nose, a small, controlled sound. "Coming in here like it's accidental. Like it doesn't matter." The silence that followed was thick. Not awkward. Intentional. She waited. I waited too, but mine was the kind of waiting that hopes someone else will go first. "I don't want to make this weird," she continued. "Or worse. She stopped, pressed her lips together. When she looked at me again, there was no humor in her eyes. Just honesty, stripped down to the bone. "I don't know what I'm doing." Something in my chest cracked open. Not relief. Not fear. Recognition. "We don't have to do anything," I said. "We can just—" "No," she said gently, cutting me off. "That's the problem. We already are." Her gaze didn't waver. I felt suddenly very young, not in years, but in exposure. Like she could see how much effort it took me not to reach for her, not to say something reckless. "I think about you," she said quietly. "And then I hate myself for it." The words landed hard. She didn't flinch, just stood there, letting them exist between us. I swallowed. "You don't have to hate yourself." She laughed then, sharp and brief. "You say that like it's optional." I leaned my elbows on the counter, closing some of the space without touching her. Close enough that we were sharing air. Close enough that every pause felt deliberate. "I don't want to be a mistake," I said. It surprised me when it came out. I hadn't planned to say it. Her eyes softened in a way that hurt. She reached out, then stopped herself halfway, fingers curling back like she'd touched something hot. "You're not," she said. "That's what scares me." We stood there like that, hands not touching, words used up. The shop hummed quietly around us, lights buzzing, a car passing outside. Finally, she whispered, almost to herself, "I should have stayed away." And in that moment, I realized she wasn't saying it like a warning. She was saying it like a regret. The shift came quietly. That was the worst part. It happened on a morning that felt almost ordinary, too bright for how heavy the air inside the shop had been lately. She came in earlier than usual, sunglasses still on even though the sun had barely cleared the buildings. She didn't take them off right away. That should have told me something. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. I nodded, already flipping the sign on the door without asking why. The bell stayed silent this time. The shop felt sealed off from the world, like a held breath. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone, held it for a second like she might put it back. Then she slid it across the counter toward me. "You don't have to listen," she said. I don't think I can carry it alone anymore." I didn't touch the phone at first, just looked at her. Her jaw was tight, eyes fixed on a crack in the wood between us. "I will," I said. She nodded once, pressed play herself. The voice that came through wasn't hers. A man's, older than me, tired but warm. The kind of voice that had known how to be gentle without trying. He was laughing softly at something she'd said off record. Then, "I know you don't believe me when I say this, but you saved me. I just wish I'd figured that out sooner." The voicemail ended with a pause that felt intentional, like he'd wanted to say more and decided not to. She took the phone back before I could say anything. "He died 3 years ago," she said. Not dramatically, just factual. "Car accident." We weren't together anymore, but we never really stopped being something. I didn't know where to put my hands. I settled for resting them flat on the counter, grounding myself. I don't think I ever grieved him properly, she continued. I just adjusted. Filled the space with responsibility. Distance. Good decisions. Her mouth curved slightly at that. Not a smile. And then I met you, she said, finally looking at me. And it felt familiar in a way I didn't ask for. My chest tightened. Not with jealousy, not exactly. With understanding I hadn't earned. I don't remind you of him, I said carefully. No, she said immediately. You remind me of who I was before I learned how to disappear. That landed harder than anything else she'd said. She exhaled, long and shaky. I think that's why I panicked. Because wanting you feels like betraying the part of me that survived losing him. I shook my head slowly. It's not a betrayal to still be alive. She watched me like I'd spoken a language she almost remembered. I know, she said. Then, quieter, but knowing and believing aren't the same. She picked up her bag, slung it over her shoulder, paused. For what it's worth, she added, this, whatever this is, it's not about replacing anyone. I nodded. I know. At the door, she hesitated, not turning around this time. You make me want things again, she said softly. And I don't know if I'm brave enough for that. Then she left. The shop felt different after, like something fundamental had shifted its weight. And for the first time, I understood that what stood between us wasn't age, or timing, or fear. It was grief that hadn't finished speaking yet. She didn't come back for 3 days after that. I told myself it was fine, that she'd said what she needed to say and was doing the sensible thing, whatever that meant. I went back to work like normal. I shelved returns. I argued silently with the radio. I stopped checking the door every time the bell rang. On the 4th day, she came in without the coat. Just a sweater. Soft. Worn at the cuffs. Like she hadn't armored herself this time. She didn't speak right away. Neither did I. We stood there, the shop wide awake around us. Midday customers drifting in the back, pages turning, the low hum of a heater that never quite worked. I don't want to be careful anymore, she said finally. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just placed between us like something fragile. I nodded once. My throat felt tight. Okay. That was it. No speech. No negotiation. Just acknowledgement. We moved to the back table, the one no one ever used, and sat across from each other without pretending it was accidental. She rested her elbows on the wood, fingers loosely laced. I noticed the way one thumb kept rubbing the other, like she was steadying herself. I'm not asking you for anything, she said. I just need you to know where I am. I see it, I said. I've been seeing it. Her shoulders dropped a fraction at that. Relief, maybe. Or surrender. I don't know how this fits into my life, she admitted. But I know it doesn't feel like a mistake. I leaned back, letting the words settle instead of rushing to meet them. We don't have to define it, I said. We can just be honest when we're here. She considered that, looked at me for a long moment. The kind that isn't about attraction anymore, but recognition. I can do that, she said. We sat there in silence after. Not empty. Shared. The kind where you stop checking yourself every second. At some point, without looking, she shifted her hand closer to mine on the table. Not touching, just close enough to make the choice visible. I moved mine the rest of the way. Our fingers brushed. Stilled. Neither of us tightened the grip. We just let the contact exist, light and real and unclaimed. She exhaled slowly, forehead dipping toward the table, almost a laugh caught in her breath. This is terrifying, she murmured. Yeah, I said. But it's quiet. She nodded, eyes closed now, her temple leaning just barely against my shoulder. Not collapsing. Choosing. Outside, the bell rang as someone came and went. Inside, nothing rushed us. We stayed like that for a while, two people not pretending anymore, not promising anything either. Just sitting in the truth we'd finally stopped avoiding. And somehow that was enough. I'm telling this from a little distance now, not years, not even that long. Just enough time for the noise to settle and the shape of things to make sense. We didn't rush into anything after that day. That surprised me most. There was no dramatic shift, no sudden rewriting of our lives. We kept meeting in the same quiet ways. Coffee that went cold, Afternoons where nothing happened except shared silence. Moments where one of us would almost say too much and then choose not to. It felt grown. Earned. What changed first was me. I stopped needing things to resolve quickly. I stopped confusing intensity with meaning. I learned that wanting someone doesn't always mean reaching for them. It can mean sitting still and letting them arrive at their own pace. I learned how much strength there is in restraint, in not asking someone to be braver than they're ready to be. She changed too, though she'd probably hate the word for it. She softened in places she didn't know were rigid. She laughed more freely, not louder, just less guarded. She stopped apologizing for taking up space. Sometimes she'd catch herself doing it anyway, then stop mid-sentence and smile like she'd just corrected an old habit. We never labeled what we were in the beginning. That mattered. It gave us room to grow without pressure. When we finally did talk about it, really talk, it wasn't a confession or a turning point. It was more like checking in on something that was already alive. Love, I learned, doesn't always arrive like a lightning strike. Sometimes it settles in quietly, after grief has said its piece. Sometimes it looks like patience, like choosing to stay present instead of running ahead, like two people deciding, again and again, not to disappear. What surprised me most was how little age mattered in the end. Not because it didn't exist, it did, but because it wasn't the thing that shaped us. Loss did, timing did, courage did, and the strange kindness of meeting someone at exactly the wrong moment and choosing not to walk away. We're still careful, still honest, still very human about it. There are days when the weight of our pasts presses in, and days when the future feels uncertain. But there's also a steadiness now, a warmth that doesn't demand anything it can't hold. If I've learned anything, it's this. Some connections don't ask to be chased. They ask to be respected. And if you're quiet enough, brave enough, they'll meet you there. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?